Welcome, everybody, to the latest installment in our Ship Management International podcast. I'm delighted today to welcome into the studio Thome Olofsen, who's Group Managing Director of OSM Thome, one of the world's largest third-party ship management companies. Now, Thome assumed the role in November 2025 after serving as the company's Chief Commercial Officer, succeeding Pinarman Norbai following his retirement. Thome, a veteran of the company with more than 12 years' experience, he's built up an international career spanning commercial strategy, business development, organizational leadership, key account management, strategic workforce planning, and full P&L responsibility. And during his time with OSM Thome, he has played a central role in the company's global expansion and in strengthening relationships with ship owners and maritime stakeholders worldwide. As Group Managing Director, he leads an organization headquartered in Norway that manages more than 1,000 vessels, employs over 30,000 seafarers, and has approximately 1,600 shore-based staff across more than 20 locations worldwide. Under his leadership, OSM Thome continues to focus on operational excellence, safety, digital transformation, sustainability, and customer value. Now, Thome is also well known across the maritime industry as chair of Crew Connect Global, where he's championed discussions on the future of crewing, digitalization, talent attraction and retention, and seafarer welfare. And he's a regular speaker at international shipping conferences and is recognized for promoting leadership centered on people, safety, and continuous improvement. That sounds incredibly impressive. Have we got it sort of right?
It sounds very, very impressive. Thank you so much. It's very nice to be here and talk with you again. We have met over the years many times, and
Thome, welcome to the Ship Management International podcast studio. Delight to see you. And as I said, the last time we saw each other was in Posidonia, bumped into you on a number of occasions. Incredible show. But it gets bigger and bigger. The allure of the Greek ship owners, Thome, is there all the time, isn't it? But what did you think of Posidonia this year?
I think it was incredible. It was incredible. Just meeting the people, engagement on what really matters, but also the excitement of what's going on in our business. It's shifted. Focus has shifted. 2 years ago, we talked decarbonization. We talked a lot about digitalization also. And now I think we are more back to the people side of the business and the basics of ship management, which makes my presence at a conference like this much more relevant.
Looking at priorities, Thome, I mean, when you came into that role, what have you been concentrating on? What's been the real focus for you? Because people are very, very important. Compliance is very, very important. Operational efficiency and quality is very, very important. But what have been your priorities, immediate priorities?
My immediate priority has been alignment, getting everyone to work as one. Has been my priority number one with whom we are in OSM Thome. And it doesn't matter whether we're on board the ship or in any function ashore, whether it's HR, crewing, accounting, or other leadership function. So that's been my key focus and my key priority from day one.
And it is about, as you say, interacting the shore-based with the sea-based staff as well, isn't it? Because it is team, isn't it? You're managing 1,000 ships. You've got to have that same ethos, that same operating ethos all the way through.
Yeah, and the same ethos, but also the same respect and the same priority as a business. Every one of our 30,000 colleagues are representing who OSM Thome are. So everyone who meets us should have a feel for who we are and what we stand for and what good looks like and what not good look like and what we're doing about it. So the approach to how we manage leadership, the approach towards how we manage people, and not least how we handle situations when they are not going as planned or when we have challenges is critically important.
Now, before we come on to issues like geopolitics, the day of the seafarer, stuff like that, I mean, how do you see the market moving forward now, Thome? Because when you look at the role of the third party or second party ship managers, however you want to describe them, you still are only looking after as a sector about 20% of the world fleet. But the value that you create and the resources and the quality that you bring into the way that vessels are operated and run is exceptional. It is a highly professional sector now. Ship owners should be sitting up and saying, we can't operate unless we're working with a quality ship manager. What are your thoughts on that? How do you see the sort of market moving forward? How do you see reaction and the way that third-party management companies are being treated by the industry? Do you think it's getting better, getting more opportunities? How do you see it all panning out?
I think it's a good question, first of all, Sean. I think the dynamics is changing from being a question of cost mainly to be much more a question of performance, reliability, and infrastructure and how we do things. So what I mean by this is that we are becoming much more a key part of the ship owner's opportunity to deliver what they want to. And what we are seeing traditionally also in ship owners is that where they historically were very loyal to one segment of their business, so they were in containers all life, or they would be in bulkers all their life, or in dry, or they would be in wet and tankers all their life, or in specific segments of tankers, then we are seeing a much more agnostic approach to their asset types and their trading types and so forth. And there we can help them because the large managers like ourselves, we have 30, 40 different vessel types, and we operate globally and we have expertise in all the segments. So this deepens the dialogue, but also the opportunity for strategic partnership that even companies that do in-house management has an element of having a third-party manager to help them penetrate and grow into other segments and thereby diversify their own business models. So I think it's a complex and it's not an easy question to answer. So how do I see the market? I see it as one that is evolving and changing a lot.
What do you think are going to be the drivers behind that, Tommy? Is it governance? Is it compliance? Is it the role of the charters demanding that you work with a quality player like OSM Thome? Have you got those sort of drivers that are helping to sort of push that awareness within certain owner sectors as well? Because there's a lot of ship owners who just manage their own ships and get on with it and think they're doing a great job.
And just to be clear, there's a lot who's doing a very good job in it also. But what's driving it is a mix of all of them. It's the complexity of operating globally and in a globally more and more challenging world. That can be compliance, that can be geopolitics, that can be new fuels, new technologies. It can be new charter requirements. It's end customer requirements, ESG, et cetera, et cetera. But what we see as the most important is that we need to build a certain scale and a certain robustness to be able to handle whatever comes our way. And that's what ship management is really about. I think all the large ship managers are very resilient. Most of the companies has been around for a very, very long time, and we have built deep expertise and competence in the various fields. And all the large top 10 managers has their key strength and depth of expertise. So I think the competitiveness between managers is also becoming better in that we all play also to each other's strength a little bit, and thereby elevating the industry of ship management from what it was to be very much cost focused and to now be much more performance and business opportunity driven.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point because, when you look at the way the industry is moving and changing itself at the moment with AI, innovation, technology, digitalization, looking at new fuels, pressure on decarbonisation, all of these things like that, it's not a cost issue anymore. You've got to be running those vessels in the right way with the right crew, with the right people, with the right processes and systems as well, haven't you? So it does become performance related.
And performance is everything. And yes, you can save maybe a few percentage of OPEX by changing nationalities of your crew or by making other choices on your maintenance and so forth in your maintenance strategies, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, if that results in off-hire or it results in deeper performance issues that affects tradability, such as port state detentions or poor vetting statistics or what it might be, Sean, it doesn't matter saving those few percentage on your OPEX. Then you're destroying value at a whole other level.
Now, this year's Dare the Seafarer focuses on carrying world trade, carrying the risks. And the seafarers have been in the spotlight over the last couple of months, and we'll come on to the geopolitical situation in a minute as well, Tommy. But what does this message mean to you? And do you think enough attention is paid to the people behind global trade? You talked about earlier about the real focus on the people and on the seafarers, but is enough proper focus being placed on seafarers, would you say?
Definitely not. is the answer. Definitely not. It's improving, but it's nowhere near where it should be. It's good that we have the Day of the Seafarer because it reminds the industry that who is really at the forefront making things go. And then every time we have a larger crisis, it comes to the surface of examples is what has happened in the Middle East in recent months. So what is carrying the world trade and carrying the risk, I think, is an incredibly strong message because it makes a bold statement that it's not the steel of the ships or the oil being burned in the engine room that actually powers world trade. It is the people who does it. And I don't think there's enough attention to it. I think seafarers, to a very large extent, are taken for granted. The way we even talk about seafarers, the rank seafarers has, talks to something that belongs decades ago. Even the unions has CBA agreements. The ranks that we need to employ on is still today really, really crazy. Like we're employing an AB, which is an able seaman, or an OS, who is an ordinary seaman. We have a rank as a wiper, it belongs some years, or an oiler is a rank, we're diminishing the impact, the educational requirement, the expertise, the knowledge that these people have. And we boil it down to call them ordinary or able, so we're not helping ourselves either. And then the whole, I've said this many times, seafarers are not treated very well. We know 20%, more than 20% of all seafarers are not paid on time, or are not paid at all, or they are not paid correctly.
They should not be allowed.
What kind of we are in 2026 and this still happens. We talked about the role of managers. There's one manager in the world that employs the seafarers themselves, and that is OSM Thome. No other manager of the large managers employ their seafarers themselves. And that's because you're looking at seafarers not as an enabler and as a quality, but that's because you're looking at seafarers as a risk, and you don't want to take that risk. But we're taking it, and we're happy to.
By employing the seafarers yourself through OSM Thome, you're able to supply that respect and that sort of care and attention that any employee would expect. You're able to give that to your seafarers, and that's something that you value certainly as a company.
I would say so. And I think the fact that we employ the seafarers allows us to say it's our seafarers and it's our colleagues, and it changes the whole dynamic, and it changes also what we do in terms of protecting our seafarers, I think.
We hear from time to time, Tom, it's quite interesting, this whole debate about shortage of seafarers, and then it gets qualified where people say, well, shortage of competent seafarers and whatever, they qualify it. But at the heart of it is still that debate or discussion about whether shipping is, as an industry, is doing the right thing to attract the right talent into shipping. Because you and I know, we've been part of it. I've been part of this industry for 45 years. It's phenomenal. I love every second of it, every minute of it. It offers everything from amazing people to lifestyle to, reward in the job that you do, to travel, to loads of stuff come out, and you go away saying, I'm just so pleased I'm part of this great industry. But you've got to ask yourself the question, then when I go down the pub and talk to my friends about it, and they go, I know nothing about shipping, So, is the industry doing enough to attract the right people in? But that's also crucial when it comes to the shortage of seafarers, isn't it? Because you need the seafarer of tomorrow. And who is that going to be? And what would you say that person is? And what is the industry doing to ensure that it's in a position to attract that type of person in?
Well, what is that person? Well, depends a lot. We see still for certain people in the world, it's a very attractive career choice to be joining shipping. Both because it gives access to competitive terms, and you get to work in a global scale, and you can look after your family and so forth. So therefore, we see in many countries still that there is a lot of seafarers seeking the basic maritime training at very high numbers, and actually higher numbers than the industry can absorb. So in Philippines and India, as examples, we still educate as countries and as industry more trainees than actually get onto ships, because there's not training berths available and there's not jobs. So, and why that happens is that the training industry is not regulated well enough to make sure that those we actually train at that level, that they also have training berths to actually achieve their certificate of competence and so forth. So that's a huge challenge. I think we've talked about that before, Sean, you and I. This is a challenge that remains. But what I also see is that we need to do something on the branding of it. Exactly as you say, this is a great industry. You learn everything. It's full of great people who really are passionate about what they do. And you can have a truly global career where I don't know of so many others who can have that. We need to brand that more. And then we need to tell the good stories a little bit more. We have a tendency in shipping, and especially in ship management, to focus on things that doesn't go well. And we communicate that maybe too much. But what's driving recruitment? I think we are up against careers in other industries that are getting AI'd and everything else, and where what we can offer is for a foreseeable future that there will be a strong need for seafarers for a long, long time. So we should brand that, I think.
It's interesting because the one thing that shipping has been so struggling with for many, many years is increasing its image to the man in the street, and we've had many debates, Tommy, about that in the past, how the shipping, really increased its profile. And then along comes the Ever Given, first of all, when he got stuck in the Suez Canal and people were then complaining why, their TVs were delayed and all the rest of it. And then also in COVID, when the fact that, Hapag-Lloyd are putting on 9 strings on the Far East to West Coast of the US instead of the 6 strings, and therefore the ships were getting congested and therefore stuff was being delayed and, whatever. And then comes along the Straits of Hormuz and the geopolitical situation down there, when the oil price is going up. And people are seeing and knowing about shipping now like they've never known that. Before we come on to the impact on seafarers for the geopolitical situation, how, as an industry and a stakeholder, an important stakeholder in the industry, how do you deal with all of these changes? Because when you've got President of the United States changing tariffs from one morning to the afternoon, and then you've got trade policy changing, and then you've got the changing situation in places like the Middle East, shipping has to carry on doing its job, doesn't it? But how do you strategize? How do you plan with things like that when it's so fast moving?
It's back to this one team approach I had early on, is that communicating is very critical across the company. My experience is that people can handle uncertainty if they are engaged and involved in it. But if we don't communicate, or we don't engage, or we don't involve, then people cannot handle it very well. So the expectation I have from leaders and those involved is that we communicate. And it goes both ways. So if there's insecurity on board the ships due to what they read or what they hear, then we have to communicate around it. Now, what I think is that it's still pretty basic what we need to do: operate ships safely, and we need to do it efficiently. The way we need to focus on our part in the job and not try to solve something outside our control. So sometimes you need to wait for the world to change, and sometimes you need to change the world. And in some of these things you're talking about, we as a company, we are more preparing ourselves to be adaptable to a changing world than we are actually forming those changes, because it's outside our control, to be honest.
I think shipping is amazing because of its agility, does change and what have you. But when you now look at the seafarers, we've got this theme of the seafarers here, facing the growing range of risks from security threats, mental health issues, all of these things to do with geopolitics. They're stuck in the Middle East Gulf, since February. I know that it's opened up now and things are moving. But that's a big burden and a big ask for for the 20,000 seafarers that start there. What concerns you most about this, and how is OSM Thome helping crews navigate these issues, such as mental health issues, because it is important that they feel everybody's on the same sheet here, or pulling in the same direction. So what concerns you, and what steps are you guys taking to deal with this?
So what we're doing is we're communicating, but what we're seeing is that seafarers are feeling more pressurized. They are feeling fatigue in a different way than we saw before. They feel more isolated, and we see that having a big impact to the mental health of seafarers in general. What we have done is that we have put a lot of welfare support, but also communication protocols in place to make sure we address those and don't hide away from them. And one of the things we have, which is which I feel very lucky about now, is that we have our own medical clinics and our own doctors and our own psychologists. And what that gives us in these times is that we have a infrastructure that supports the vessels better than I think most have. So our clinics and our doctors, our psychologists, and the way we can approach and work with the ship is something that we are putting a lot of attention on. But what concerns me is the safety of the seafarers. We make a promise, not just to the seafarer, but also the seafarer's family, that when they go to sea with OSM Thome, is that we have a responsibility to get them back to their family in as good a state, looking as fit as they were when they joined. And when put risk around that promise to not just the seafarer but to the family also, then that's my biggest concern. And that risk exists, and we are mitigating it, but we're not able to remove the risk completely, because some of these things are totally out of our control. So what we can do is to put good risk management practices in place and support the ships and the crew from really diligent and good security and safety teams ashore.
It's refreshing to hear what you're talking about here, Thome, and how important crew welfare is, and what have you as well. And what would you say, good crew welfare at the moment? It is a sort of exercise that is changing and putting the seafarer first, presumably. How do you see crew welfare developing and changing moving forward?
Yeah. First of all, it starts with treating seafarers with respect, and treating everyone with respect is the first. It starts with, and then it's this promise we make to the seafarer and their families, is that we actually create a safe place to work, and we also give them the support they need to mentally recharge and develop. But it also is that they realize that we do care, that if they ask for our help, that we actually help them and don't leave them alone out there. And that when we say that it's seafarers that matters, then all our actions and how we follow that up, it needs to match that. Otherwise, it doesn't work. You will be called that bluff very fast. So don't try that. Either you do or you don't. So just do it.
Very quickly on to emissions and alternative fuels. Just want to get your sort of viewpoint on that. Question here estimated that around 800,000 seafarers will need training in alternative fuels and new technologies. But then you've also, on the back of the geopolitical situation, you've got this sort of movement now, drill baby drill, oil is not going anywhere, let's capture the carbon rather than look at alternatives. Also, what's the infrastructure like for methanol, ammonia, whatever? A lot of it's an exciting time of change, Thome, but it's got opportunities. It's also got challenges. What are your thoughts on all of this? What do you see as the biggest opportunities and the challenges towards lower carbon operations? And how do you see it all panning out?
In terms of the crew challenge of bringing new fuels in, and new technologies, reducing fuel consumption also is, making ships more effective and so forth. All of this is a concern. It's a real concern, because we are bringing constant change to the operating environment in which seafarers operate. And we're on a ship. You need to combine a ship with experience in actually operating and working in, and have experienced a lot of things, while you're also changing the whole way ship is run and powered, engaging with the rest of the world. So that complexity is real. So what are we doing about it? Is that we're putting strategies in place that allows us to address it in a way where we believe that we both get opportunities to not just teach and learn in school and theory and in simulators how to do it, but that we also have practical exposure and ability to show that we know how to operate and work with these new elements. So a lot of training, a lot of onboard training, a lot of cross-training between segments, making it attractive to all our crew to be exposed to these new ship types and new operating environment. But again, this isn't new. Where ships has been exposed to evolvement over time, and the way we have solved it so far has been a lot of, to be honest, on-the-job training, where you are mentored, coached, and have an opportunity to demonstrate competence within those areas, combined with shore training and simulator training. And that will continue. But we won't train 800,000 people in one go, and we won't need to train 800,000 people in one go. So again, you can't chew the elephant in one bite. You need to mix it up a little bit to be able to solve the challenge.
One fuel that fits all. It's going to be different types, isn't it, Tommy?
Yeah, it will be different types, but there will be one predominant fuel for a long time still, which we have now. So we still need to focus on how do we operate vessels even more efficient on that fuel we have now and be more and more efficient. So the thing we as managers are very focused on, because we are not owning the assets and we're not the ones deciding on which fuel the ship should be or which fuel strategy the owner wishes to take. What we are doing is that we are putting up the operational reality of those choices and making sure that we make informed decisions and our customers make informed decisions before they make those investments. That's the
Now, hand in hand with the decarbonisation discussion in the industry is innovation, technology, digitalisation, and what have you. And it's a very exciting time. There's change happening every week. We see it in our own private lives as well as everything else. How's OSM Thome? How are you embracing technology? How do you see it all fitting in with it? Because there are tangible benefits for customers and for crew, but you've got to do it in the right way as well, haven't you? You've got to do it for a purpose, And digitalization needs people, doesn't it? That's clear. What's your company strategy on that?
Yeah, it's spot on. You need to do it purpose driven. I totally agree, Sean. What we are doing is that we have developed a roadmap, a digital roadmap, together with our board of directors and within our executive team. We have an owner of that is our chief digital officer. And what we have seen being the most important element of our digital journey is not to apply a lot of AI tools and digital solutions on top work processes that doesn't function well today. So a knee-jerk reaction we see a lot is that businesses and companies and so forth are trying to solve an operational challenge by applying a digital automation tool on it. If the process is bad already, the work process and the structure is bad already, and the data thereby are bad, then you will just have AI automate or do AI on bad work process and bad data. So that won't work. So what we are doing is that we are cleaning our data. We are making sure that the work processes serves what it is that we want to achieve. And then we apply the digital solutions to that work process that we want to achieve. And we see amazing results by going that way, because suddenly it's no longer about falling in love with some digital application or new app or whatever, but it becomes much more purpose-driven of what it is that you're actually trying to change and take those efficiencies out much more efficient. So it doesn't sound as sexy, unfortunately, but what it does is that it makes us, again, more resilient, it makes us stronger, and it makes us more purpose-driven as a business. So that's what I do. And what it does to the crew, it simplifies what we're doing. So we're not just adding another system to them that they need to update on the ship, but we are actually taking work away from them and making everyone focus not on entering data, but making good use of data and decisions.
And I think that's right. I think digitalization and innovation and AI is there to make the jobs easier rather than adding in more layers of work and what have you, as you rightly say. But I like what you're saying there, purpose-driven. There's a reason for doing it.
Yeah, we're deliberate. We make a choice that we want to go from here to there, from A to B, but we don't just decide that we want to go from A to B, but we also decide on how we want that route to look like and which stops we want to make on the way. And that deliberate makes it very easy to communicate. It makes it very clear to everyone that we are going this way and not the other way. And sorry for maybe it's boring and simple, but it creates this one team that we are actually doing this to be better. And we're not doing it to cut a lot of people's jobs or everything else, but we're doing it to make our operation safer, more efficient, and make sure we are relevant also in the future.
When you're just finishing on that theme there, when you're talking with the ship owners and the charterers, etc., what are their expectations from ship managers now and from the ship management partners? Because your partners, this is all about working in tandem with them. But what are they asking you now that they weren't necessarily asking you for 4 to 5 years ago? Is it more of a sort of, getting you involved even deeper in the relationships you have with them, or is it, are we moving away from that benchmarking type scenario that we used to have years ago? But what are their expectations?
It's definitely moved away from just being cost and a few KPI focused. What more and more owners, but also the customers of the ship owners are becoming more and more aware of is that there's a lot of excellent data and insights that happens on board the ship. So that ability to transparently and openly work together between all the parties, and where the ship manager becomes more in the center of the core operation and not just some outsourced provider to an owner, is definitely happening. But to get there, we need to, as ship managers, to be 100% transparent in what we do. And it's not just transparent in how are we spending money and how are we making money and so forth. It's not just that. It's also transparent in what actually goes on, and openly and honestly report, not just when things are great, but also when there's challenges. And I think we as a Scandinavian manager has some strength in the way we are built naturally, that we are very honest and open about things that doesn't go well. And then we see the customer base that comes to us enjoy that discussion and that honesty, because it makes them make better decisions when they actually know what's happening on their ship. So we're not trying to please them with only good news. We actually probably are known as the manager sharing everything that doesn't go so well, if that makes sense.
Thome, I just want to ask one last question, just about you, really. It's an amazing industry. We've been talking about that. We're blessed to be part of it, but we all work incredibly hard. I always find it quite strange when we all bump into each other, all in the four corners of the world, and we just take it for granted. Oh, hello, Thome, how are you? Yeah, fine. And you could be anywhere, and we take it for granted. How do you balance that with recreation? How do you relax? I mean, how do you recharge your own batteries? Because that's important, isn't it, for as far as Thome Olofsen is concerned?
It's super important. Family is everything to me. So I wouldn't have been able to do what I do without, first of all, my wife, but also the wider family. Without them, I wouldn't have achieved anything. And my wife has given up a lot for me to have the career I have been able to have and looked after the kids. So what I really prioritize when I'm not working is spending as much time as I possibly can with the family. But what this industry gives is a constant, you're on 24/7. We're always on in this industry. You're never totally off, because ships still operate and things still happen. And in my job, I can't just switch off and not be available. So I need to be present all the time. So how do I handle that? And that's been something I've had to learn. So that comes back to building a team around you that can actually solve problems themselves. It's about letting them make mistakes also, because I can't just protect them from making mistakes. I need to let them evolve and so forth. And what I believe in creating that space for myself is that I don't tell anyone what to do. That normally gives people stress. If you overload people with tasks, then you get eventually very stressed if you're totally overloaded on tasks. But what I overload people with is accountability and responsibility. And no one has ever got stressed of having too much accountability or too much responsibility. So that's what I drive by. And I think that's why I always surround myself with people that are better than me, so that I can relax and be sleeping well, because they do the job for me. So I'm lucky there.
Thome, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time. And I think when we go outside, we're going to sort of melt in this amazing sunshine we got at the moment. But you're delighted to talk to always, and thank you very much. And just to remind our SMI listeners, podcast is available on the SMI website. That can be downloaded, and there are loads of other podcasts on there as well. Thome, thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Thank you so much, Sean. Really enjoyed it.